It's another episode of Write Once, Read Many. We've got Vic here today. Vic, who refuses to vamp at the start.
Well, I'll tell everybody this episode has a theme, but we won't tell you what it is.
Yeah, definitely have to
Yeah.
guess. Here we go.
It's just like right when it starts. There's nothing for me to go. I'm a good bouncer offer.
Uh-huh.
I don't think I'm a good like
Solo
initiator,
act?
I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is what I like. Like, I know we've talked about like me streaming or whatever, like in general, and I don't think I'd be able to because I think I would have absolutely nothing to say until somebody else talked. I would have to be a YouTuber type thing.
I do.
No lie.
I can imagine you on a live stream, just like sitting there, kind of staring at the camera, like.
Yeah, like waiting.
That way
could
that
be
you
like
do.
my shtick.
Yeah.
That my whole shtick is that I just sit there and stare and wait until somebody else engages.
Yeah. You can be very patient, or I don't know if it's exactly patience. You can act very crazy sometimes.
Whoa! In what context have I done this in? Where I just is.
There have been a few times where we've been around like work people, and you've just like sat there like frozen like a deer, like.
That's true.
And it
Okay.
seems like when you'll tell me about like why afterward, it usually has to do with like they did something cringe and like it drove me off an emotional cliff and I couldn't handle it and I just had to stay perfectly still.
I can't think of when this has happened, but I agree that is probably exactly how it went down.
Yeah.
Because so I have to like, oh man, now I'm thinking of every single cringe thing that's ever happened around me. This is not a good start.
Yeah. Well, so yes, hello to Greg and hello to Vale. This is indeed some
new
sort of
chatter
stream,
Vale.
and I know you say podcast. It's like a podcast. It's very adjacent. Greg says if being cringe causes problems, then reading chat while streaming would be a walking minefield. I mean, sure.
No. Because here's the thing: when you're reading chats, you're in control of how cringe things come off. I don't know about you, but have you ever sent a chat and then the person like responded weird, and then you're like, oh god. Like they're completely in charge of how your tone is portrayed.
Yeah.
So they can abuse that power.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly happened to me where like I've said something, and I think this was like early on with Scarlett when like, cause Scarlett has not actually been speaking English that long. And I think her English has noticeably improved in the time that we've known her.
Oh yeah.
Just in like subtle ways. But for me, I'm like, oh yeah. She clearly has a better understanding of these types of sentences, etc. But like, I had said stuff and then Scarlett would read it and just clearly be really confused. And it's like, oh no, my point was not gotten across at all.
I can't believe you hate Crime Tour for being Canadian. That's so messed up.
Yeah. I mean, what can you do? So what's Vale saying over here? Always wondered why people say frozen like a deer. Every time I chase a deer, it runs away crazily. And then self-incriminated is cringe, Vale did. And then Vale says, my primary personality trait is cringing. Oh, well, yeah. I mean,
okay. So you're not somebody who's causing cringe. You're the one who's cringing, because that's totally different.
Vale says she speaks native Canadish. Yes. Something like that. Quebecois. But anyway, so as you could see, this is a chapter about a pillar and a boy trapped in the earth.
Yeah, I had to read the when you sent it to me. It's not that because I responded kind of harshly because I was like asking William like what was going on in the background, and then he like was like, oh well, Scrub is stuck in a hole, and I was mad because I had to read that part like 5 times before I was like, what the actual fuck? And then I was like, okay, cool, he's stuck in a hole. And sometimes I just get like so mad, like how many times I have to like reread certain parts of the chapter to like parse what is physically going on. It's not anything wrong with the writing. It's the fact that he was in a they just trapped him in a hole. Like what's that about?
Yeah, they use Gully's power to kind of mole him into the ground.
The way that they like describe it where like he has no restraints on, but he can't escape from the hole unless somebody else pulls him out because of how skinny the hole is, which is like horrifying to me.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah.
one
I made the
time,
hole a little bit bigger in the drawing because I couldn't like do that to him.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I kind of got the impression like it's not that he was directly in a hole like this, that it was like the street was kind of more rubbled. So like, when Uncle Iroh gets caught by those earthbenders when he's in that hot spring or whatever, and like
Hmm.
there's just rocks in such a configuration around him such that he could not reasonably move out of it.
Hmm.
Um, I kind of imagine that, where he's not perfectly encased underground, just like the street is completely fucked because this part of the city hasn't been rebuilt or whatever.
Yeah, no, I decided that
I mean, this way's
Goldie had
funnier.
put him in it. Well, this was the way that it like because that's what I thought at first, but then when I see Goldie do her power, I was like, no, they made this hole for him. It's too perfectly scrub sized to not have been power.
Yeah, yeah. You're right. It was
Um,
probably a gully creation.
Yeah. They're like, don't worry, Goalie can imprison you by sliding you gently into this hole that's exactly the same size as you. Vale said you remember in like Arc 5 when Taylor used a caterpillar with neuter goo on it to paralyze lung. I had to reread that chapter like 3 times to actually understand what happened. Yeah,
The
yeah.
reveal on that is maybe a bit too fast, and you
Yeah,
know,
because it's like a setup and then reveal, but then like those two things happen. Like the setup happens like immediately and then the reveal happens immediately, so it's a little bit confusing.
it's like I like it as an inventive solution, and overall, I think that's a good chapter. But I do think that turnaround being confusing, that tracks because it's a little sloppy right there. Um.
Um,
Oh.
I'm sure that Greg's message here has some tone of voice that I'm supposed to pick up. Is this a quote?
Um.
Or did he make it?
I mean, I feels like it could be close to like several things, but we'll just imagine Greg shouting in his normal voice.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
In his normal shouting voice.
yeah. It was made for
Yeah.
me. This is my hole. Scrub probably. I can't do a Greg shout.
Oh,
Um.
it's from a Junji Ito manga.
Oh my God!
Okay.
I should have picked up on that. It's the thing where you see the hole and then you go like,
The one
"Oh,
with the
it's
hole.
me!" And then you go in and then you take off all your clothes because it only fits just you. And then you go
Uh-huh.
into it and then it slides you forward and it goes like it squiggles your arms. I mean, probably it breaks all your bones, but I always think of it like it makes you all squiggly. And then
Okay.
at the end, it's horrifying and they like die or maybe they don't die. Maybe they're just alive in there
They're just
somehow.
in there. Yeah, that happened in Steven Universe too. That's why I was like, I can't remember if they said this exactly. Because they do go to the kindergarten, and then the exact same thing happens where Amethyst hops into her hole, and it's exactly the same size and shape as she is, so she like slides in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's definitely. I feel like that's a reference to the Junji Ito thing.
Oh, yeah, probably. That's
Yeah.
so funny.
Um. Anyway. What were we? Oh yeah. I'm gonna pull up the.
Audience participation.
Yes, the audience participation. Which two parahumans would you combine if you were Blasto in this chapter? Because, funsies. And, oh no, I didn't think up one I'll be thinking of in the back of my mind.
Oh my gosh.
I know. Betrayal.
Mine is the same as whatever Vale said, actually. So.
Oh, really? Have you pre-read? You pre-watched?
Huh? No. I thought of the idea first, but then he wrote it down. So then, Now he kind of stole my idea, but it's okay. I'll let him take credit.
Yeah. For themes, did you feel like there was themes? I wrote my chapter summary, but I did not write any themes.
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I didn't even think about it. Okay, themes. I don't think these two particular chapters have any themes in common. Sometimes like, I feel like sometimes they do, like sometimes they'll like match really well. Like there'll be like some purpose behind like the interlude being there or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But this one I'm not too sure. It's a hero and villain shenanigans are going on. Mostly villains.
Yeah.
There's some grand plan, Tattletale and a Quarter in the same crazy state of mind where they're making really rash decisions for some kind of grand plan that they're pulling off, but that I don't understand.
Yeah. That's true. Well, we'll get to it when we get to it. But I had thought to myself, wait, did Tattletale kind of want to do her whole big plan that she's doing now before, except now she has an excuse to do it?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how
probably that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she just ran into the funding, luckily.
Well, I figured this was what she had wanted to do with the funding either way. It's just this is how she could convince people like, oh, this is an emergency. I hate this. Anyway, so moving on to the 19.3 chapter summary. You know what the themes is? They're all Icarusing. They're all super Icarusing, super hard.
Basically, everybody's Icarusing in these chapters.
They're all the wings are melting. You shouldn't make the wings of wax. Anyway, though, so Tattletale at the end of the last chapter had mentioned Cauldron aloud, which got some of the it got them some responses, and they know that probably all the Triumvirate and a bunch of the other heroes know about and probably got their powers from Cauldron. So this chapter opens seconds after that happens. Skitter is what I described as big mad at Tattletale for doing this, and settles for saying, "That was ill-timed." Like she's some sort of super villain. She's very Coil-esque now.
Yeah, like in this, when she's trying to be like, she's trying to like keep everything low key. She comes off more like Coil.
Yeah.
Like a politician.
Like when she's really, like I even feel like when she was being earnest with the heroes, she wasn't very Coil-like. But when she does this, she is. It's kind of bizarre when she employs it. But undeterred by Skitter's negativity, Tattletale says that she got a bunch of good info just now. Skitter brings up the kill order that Miss Malicious threatened, and Tattletale's like, she won't actually do that. And Skitter's trying to use her barbed words here to say she's not really satisfied with that answer. But Tattletale pretends not to notice. Skitter presses the point of how serious the situation is, and Tattletale says that she understands, but she needs them deets.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I think she could have probably not done this here. I think she pretty much already knew.
Yeah.
She just wanted to feel like really smart for a second by confirming everything that she knows.
Well, I think part of it is she's not only insisting on confirming, but like once she has it confirmed, the way her power works, she can like say it as a sure thing, and she doesn't have to permanently have it as like a questioned building block of.
Yeah.
So there's like that, and like probably like Taylor Skitter picked up on a bunch of the other capes like reacting to some degree, and I would guess that also not only did she pick up, but probably Tattletale got lots of different. She's like, oh, I saw even more heroes than you because I'm better.
She's like, it's like after talking to Faultline on the phone, she needs to like reestablish her dominance.
Yeah. Definitely. Tattletale ends the conversation saying to trust her. Then they head back to the others. Wanton is with them, and he updates that Mirrodin pulled all the radioactive material out of his other, like, telekinetic form, and he was able to return to his human state safely. But Raymancer got really bad radiation poisoning and is probably going to die. Sad. So, do you have any feelings about the proceedings, or should I keep barreling onward?
You can keep going.
Okay. Skitter says, I'm sorry. And to Tecton, when he tells him about Raymancer's condition, then she tries to reassure him.
Sorry. I mean, I know this happens in a minute, but she's like, oh, she's like all sad about it to Tecton. And then when Goalie's like, oh man, I'm sorry, Tecton, Skater's like, that was a bad move, and I wouldn't have done that personally.
I know. Like, I'll talk about it.
Okay. I was like, I was like, did she say I'm sorry? Oh my god, that hypocrite.
Yeah, no. I specifically pulled them out, and I was like, I almost copied it into the two places with one, but I was like, I want to see. And it's like, no, there's a very, very slight variation. Taylor said it with a comma because she was leading into some fucking bullshit.
She's like, I'm sorry, but you need to get over it.
You need to get over yourself.
Okay, yeah.
Wait. I want to see it. Her next line after she says the I'm sorry, it's I'm sorry, I said. And then he stops, or he tells her all the symptoms. And then this is when she says, there's healers, tinkers who understand radiation. I'm sure they've got good doctors looking after him now. If you'll accept my saying so, I'd say your priority is here, now, this situation. And
it's like literally so rude.
So she does that, and I do think she's trying to reassure him. I'll actually just go to what I wrote. I said, then she tries to reassure him about how there's healers and tinkers and doctors who might be able to help Raymancer, but Tecton needs to prioritize being here now. This leads to an awkward silence, and Skitter admiring the idea of stepping into power armor that could tear you apart while you're in it. Then she has a classic creep moment where she has to move a centipede from blocking her own vision. I think that's a funny little detail. She's like, oh yeah, I just kept crawling them over my face.
Yeah, she's like, oh, I need to remember not to do that. Like, you were doing that while you were blind the whole time?
Yeah. The whole time. But okay, so I wanted to stop for a second, even though I had not written this in. I was just thinking about it now, about like the way that she talks about like being like, wow, that's really brave to step into the power armor. It made me think of a thing from A More Civilized Age when they were talking about, I want to get shot by one of those stun blasts from Star Wars, and then one of the other people is like, I want one of those Mortal Kombat finishers to be done to me that breaks all the bones in their body. Get over here, Scorpion. Anyway, for some reason I thought of that. Greg had seemed very perturbed when he heard them talk about that on the podcast. Anyway, breaking the silence that she had induced, Skitter goes on to say to Tecton that the best thing he can do is keep his head in the game and stay alive. She's clearly saying this aloud to herself. Tecton surprises her by saying that Mirrodin will make sure Raymancer is taken care of, and Skitter has a knee-jerk reaction and asks, if you don't do everything yourself, how can you trust anything to get done right?
My God, I cannot believe. And then when she's like, I wonder if I'm having my own like bias here. And then she's like, I'm not gonna think about that right now. But like, I just would that like it's such a crazy thing to be like. He'll be like, yeah, like my like adult manager that I've grown to trust through many fights where they have continually saved my life. And looked out for me. And she's like, you have to do it yourself. It won't get done right.
Yeah, it's so great. And then Tecton says, I can tell you have a bunch of emotional problems, but I trust my wizard boss to do the right thing. And then Skitter says, okay. But what she thinks is more like, Tecton is coming off like a naive moron, but I'm not going to waste my time fixing his positive attitude.
Oh my God, Taylor. Jesus.
He's so good.
Like this how she's like so for some reason it's really funny because like Tecton is like pretty like socially intelligent. But like when Skitter talks to him specifically, like she can't not like get a hold of herself. I don't know what it is about him.
Yeah. Grace brings up, I skip a couple lines here, but Grace brings up that Tecton let them move on Idolin before, and Skitter tries to be good and accurately take the blame for pushing on that point, but instead Tecton says he's going to take the blame for it, so there's less evidence to push for a kill order against the Undersiders. He's one of those morality-based heroes who doesn't do everything by the book. Man, crazy. What a nerd. So Skitter goes into prep mode, going around and checking what people need to get ready. Tecton doesn't need anything. The dogs are almost ready to fight. Regent can't sense Shatterbird. She had disappeared from his awareness at some point after the previous fight. And did I put a space there? Tattletale thinks that she might have let Noelle clone her and just to let Noelle get the upper hand by having more Shatter clones.
She would.
She would too.
She would too.
They worry for a moment about alternate Shatterbird power variants. And then Skitter says that she needs Atlas so she can fly around like a bug, Tattletale wants to negotiate with the other travelers and talk to Scrub, who is with them because he started working for Ballistic. Even though, like, Ballistic seems like he wouldn't be good at recruiting Scrub, especially since Scrub seemingly doesn't talk anymore. I don't know. Ballistic doesn't seem like the type who can negotiate with people or keep his patience or anything,
Yeah. Yeah, he kind of like lost all of his like good traits after he got his powers.
Yeah, he's really focused on this A to B mindset. He just needs to, if he touches something, it needs to go from here to there right away. Anyway, maybe he fires Scrub at people.
Yeah.
After this, Tattletale will need to get back where they are now to meet with Faultline's crew as they arrive. And Skitter is like surprised at how nice it is to have Tecton there to facilitate dealing with the heroes, and they're easily able to get a PRT van and drive out of the scene. Skitter has what feels to me like a Baby Cakes moment, thinking maybe having resources and being able to operate out in the open are advantages. She's used to sneaking around like a dang bug.
Yeah.
So there's a page break here. They travel, but it's very unclear to me where they're traveling from and to be honest. The geography of this section is a little, like, I don't think it actually matters, but it was hard for me to answer your question of where they are, because I'm like, wait, they leave where they are now.
Yeah.
But where and why?
Where and why? We don't know.
Yeah.
Because this is where Goalie is trapping everyone in holes.
It's true.
They can't transport the holes, so they have to go to the holes.
Good point. So Genesis has a form here that's sitting in a pile of containment foam with Sundancer and Ballistic in the same pile. There's a little continuity error here that I had never noticed in the past. It says Ballistic and Sundancer are staring at them from a distance, but also Sundancer is unconscious and slumped over. So,
He's staring towards them.
She's staring with closed eyes pointed at the ground. Scrub is buried in the road a distance away. He now permanently glows out of the mouth and eyes. Tecton leads the group up to the wards who are guarding them, and he talks to Gully, who is a case 53 and who is in the image here.
Featured here.
Yeah. I don't know. I just realized that most of the art is is it 4:3 aspect ratio?
I don't know. I don't know what that means. Probably.
It seems, it reminded me of how a standard definition TV shots are blocked. And I was like, wait, they're all like that, aren't they? Because they're all squares instead of more rectangular.
Yeah, they are all squares.
So they're actual squares. Okay, so this is like a full square.
Yeah. They're actual squares.
Okay.
And they also, I mean, you'll have to keep an eye on it, but I was having the same problem where I was drawing and they looked like 4:3, and I was like, this is a square, and then I checked the size and it's still a square, and then I would keep drawing and then I'd be like, this isn't a square, like what happened? But I got new glasses and now everything looks wider.
Oh no. Oh man.
So my art might be wide or skinny in the future. Who knows how this will affect things?
Yeah. That's really funny.
It just reminded me when you said that.
Yeah. I don't remember exactly what I was saying. But, we've been watching old Deep Space Nine, and that's in the old standard definition 4:3, and I kind of, it's not like I want everything to be in 4:3, but I like the stuff that is being in it. Like I actually I've been watching, because of the newer Avatar show, videos about that or whatever sometimes, and they show the Avatar The Last Airbender show, but they always either zoom in to make it 16 by 9, or they stretch it, and it's like,
oh no,
those are both bad. And why can't they just accept that it shouldn't be zoomed in, and that it all of the shots for the entire show are blocked to be a certain way? It's like,
yeah,
it's like if you just sort of added negative space that wasn't actually blank onto the sides of your art, and it suddenly everything was, I don't know, it would just look wrong.
Yeah, well, Quentin Reviews talked about that was really weird for him, because iCarly was shown on TV in 4:3, but then it was actually filmed in widescreen or whatever. So when he went back and watched all the DVDs, right? He was like, the framing is weird, because all of the proportions, the rule of thirds is all fucked up when you do that.
Yeah, all the kids are squished in to stand in the standard definition. And then there's just this huge space. And it's like, why are they standing like that?
Yeah, if I were him, I would have honestly put pieces of paper over the sides of the screen. I don't want to see that shit.
That's awesome. Okay. So back to what we're saying here.
We were meeting Goalie.
Yeah. So we had said that, we meet Gully, and she's in charge here. And Gully says that Tecton is missing people from his team and asks about it. First, Tecton's being evasive and mentions the team members who didn't come to Brockton Bay. And then he gets around to saying that Raymancer's probably gonna die because he got blasted with radiation. Gully says, "I'm sorry," which Skitter hypocritically thinks about how she shouldn't have done that. Then she thinks about how Tecton's probably on the verge of tears. "I'm not crying, you're crying." Lucky for Skitter, no one on her team would do something as thoughtless as try to comfort her.
Dude, the way she thinks that, she's like,
it's so
maybe
sad.
It was good that no one would do. And it's like, first of all, Gru would comfort her. I also think Aisha would comfort her. Like, I know that they wouldn't do it like in like the heat of battle, but oh my god.
I'm lucky I don't have any true friends.
I'm lucky that my friends want to push me to the breaking point rather than comfort me.
They understand how powerful I can be.
When all my emotions are tearing me up inside.
Yeah. So Telltale says she wants to talk to the travelers, and this is when Gully is impressed that Tecton's babysitting these villains who are known on a national scale. You know, these are the Undersiders. Tecton learns that Gully is in charge, and he's happy for her. She says they'll pass over her for promotions that aren't temporary, but Tecton says that she's winning them over. And it seems like they're real friends. And Tecton introduces Gully to the group and says that if they mistreat her, then they'll lose his cooperation. To which even Tattletale accepts. They move as a group to talk to the travelers, which is really just ballistic because Genesis doesn't seem to be able to talk in this form, and Sundancer's unconscious. Ballistic's mad for obvious reasons that he came to help them fight and then got really badly injured. Like the kind of thing where I guess when he describes it, I'm just like, wow, that's awful. But they get teleported up into the air to like have them drop and like break their legs. And when he slightly got up, then he got teleported into the air a second time. So yeah, things didn't go well in that way. Because he ended up in foam jail instead of in a hospital.
Yeah, and then Taylor, I mean, I know that at this point, she's like, oh, can you like help him out or whatever? But this is the exact situation that she was put in after the Endbringer fight, where she was helping and then she was injured and then she was treated like a villain, and she's not nearly impassioned enough about this.
Yeah.
Maybe that's today's theme, is Taylor being a huge hypocrite.
Well, she is being a hypocrite to a certain degree, but I also think that it she cares about Marissa to some extent, but I do not think she gives one fuck about Luke. I think that she actively dislikes him.
Yeah, I know, but like none of the people around her I mean, I don't know. It's like I don't think that she does anything wrong, except that she is not like, oh my god, it's just like when the same thing happened to me. And they handcuffed me.
I do think it's like really stupid on the hero's side to have like locked up these three in particular. Like, Scrub, keep him in the hole. But the other three, like...
That's for his own safety.
Yeah. The other three literally showed up because they were trying to fight Noelle. Like, it's like if you showed up to fight Leviathan, and then, like, before the fight is even done, they're like, okay, you guys are trapped here. We're putting containment foam on you. You're stuck.
Yeah, into the foam, guys.
Yeah. So
we hate you. Also, it like totally doesn't stop. I mean, Sundancer's unconscious, but it doesn't stop Sundancer from doing anything, and it doesn't stop Genesis from doing anything. So
I think Genesis is just cooperating. She's just like, whatever. Yeah. But you know what? Genesis is the best one. I hope all the best for Genesis. I don't know why Jess is my favorite, but Jess is my favorite.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay. let's see here. We're here. So, yes, they have Gully pass along a message with the armband to get actual medical attention for these two. Tattletale mentions that they're powerful capes who may be able to help end the situation. Regent remarks, "You'd think she'd wear a mask," which seems to not be heard by the heroes, but Skitter puts bugs in his mouth so that he gets the message not to do it again.
Yeah, that was a good put fucking bugs in his mouth, dude.
I mean, this is like one of the times when it feels justified, where it's like, shut the fuck up.
I feel like it's like as justified as it could be, but I think that maybe bugs in mouth. Are you kidding? Ugh.
It's the only thing Regent responds to.
Yeah. He actually likes the bugs in the mouth, which is why he keeps pissing off Taylor.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Tattletale moves on to the more important reason for being here. She wants to confirm her suspicion, very suspicion, I think, about Scrub's power. Scrub can't or won't speak, so Tattletale moves in, watching and waiting, and Skitter tells her that they're short on time and they're not going to learn anything if Tattletale gets her face scooped off by Scrub's power. Mm-hmm. Man, Scrub, he's like an ice cream power. He scoops. Perfect scoops. Anyway, Tattletale waves off, needing to explain things yet, because she wants to unveil all her information at the same time. And then she says at least part of this will need to wait for Faultline's crew to be here. But after Scrub's power hits the ground and leaves an intact spot, Tattletale sees what she's been waiting for. Gully helps them remove the bit of thing, as you see in the thing.
Featured
here. Gully's power seems pretty cool and fairly powerful. Like, just imagine if she's just like donking the shit out of you from below.
Yeah, like it's like very video game-esque, where you're like pillars are like coming at you or whatever, throwing you around the place.
And I know in like a video game they'll hit you for like a half heart, but imagine just getting hit in the face with a piece of the road.
Oh no.
It's like a one-hit KO.
Yeah, and then she like does the one behind your head and then in front of your head, and you're like king-konging back and forth.
Oh, I thought you meant she like squishes your like a grape.
Oh no, she could do that too. She could she could probably like do a pillar up and then a pillar out and do like two of those and squish your head right in between.
It's like a 80s movie.
Yeah.
Vale says, "I love the part where Tattletale does science." Yeah, it's great. And then the little pillar of earth is blasted by Scrub and topples, so Tattletale pulls it out of Scrub's range and she scrambles to safety. "Careful! If you've been hit, doesn't matter. Look!" She's being like, she's being just, doesn't give a fuck,
She's being just like Taylor.
Well, one, she's being just like Taylor, but two, it's like the whole, like, stop complaining about a thing. That was like 5 seconds ago.
We're over it.
Yeah.
It's too late.
Everyone except Rachel gets close and looks, and the texture and color of the spot that Scrub hit is different. Tattletale explains a whole bunch of stuff that we'll sort of talk through in the powers knowledge section, just in the abstract, just because it's like, it doesn't super matter for this part of the, summary. Anyway, so a whole bunch of knowledge, and after they hear her out and bounce ideas around about the source of powers, then Tecton doesn't believe any of it. And Tattletale says to show her a better explanation. Gully asks why the powers would do all this, which Tattletale admits she doesn't know. Skitter asks how any of this is relevant to the current situation. Tattletale tells them that Echidna is different than the Endbringers. Google's complaining that different from the Endbringers. No, different than the Endbringers. I insist.
I would never say different from the Endbringers.
Yeah.
Fucking stupid.
And that she might have a broken passenger or even a passenger trying to push through into our world. I definitely thought when I was first reading this that it was more like this, where I was like, that whatever gives them the power is trying to like manifest itself directly. Um, uh, and we'll see. Tattletale thinks Echidna could get city-sized or even bigger, and that's totally possible. But that even if she can't move, she can just keep laying there vomiting clones. So they don't want to do that. And they don't talk about an exact plan, but Tattletale says that she wants to know about the cauldron process to try and figure out how they can change back Noelle or whatever. And then at that point, she's like confronted by Skitter, and Skitter's like, but there are people, powerful people, who don't want you talking about this. And then Tattletale admits that there are, and she kind of like, she does like a movie glance around, and she's like, this is our dirty dozen, and she tells these people here about how she has a plan to tear a hole between dimensions. And I mean, it's like even people who are like kind of against her, but people who she trusts in this regard, like Grace and Scapegoat and stuff. Anyway, so they have to. She's proposing a democratic vote over these actions she's about to attempt because they can't bring
over
this.
whether she tears a hole between dimensions. It's crazy.
I think it makes sense to a certain degree because it's like from the line of reasoning, which is correct. If they do what the heroes would normally do and go to the superiors, they'll be directly going to the people who would be trying to stop them.
Yeah, no. I think that like this like also takes the blame off of her, where she's like, listen, we had put it up to a vote. I couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
It wasn't my decision to blow the hole.
Exactly. And Tecton, he'll probably take all the flag for me. I mean, what? Tecton's like, I thought it would be structurally sound to blow a hole.
Yeah. I think he probably couldn't help himself. It's like too up his alley, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's...
And same with Gully. Dude, that's why Tattletale chose Gully too, because Gully loves holes.
Yeah. Gully's like, wow, this is like my power, but between reality. What if I second trigger and I can punch through portal punches?
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the end of the chapter. We learned tons of stuff. We will talk more through all that in the later section. This is a great chapter. We get a funny scene that we have an image of. I really do think this is like one of the funniest chapter arts you've made. I didn't want to harp on it too much, but it's incredibly funny to me.
Well, like I was just gonna do Gully and Tattletale, but then I was like, well, like Scrub is here. He's like here and he's in a hole,
Yeah, oh definitely.
But like I did mostly just want to draw Tattletale like stumbling around with this fucking pillar that is like, I mean, like without the context, it's not like crazy, but like with the context that like that's just been exploded 2 times, like lightning just struck twice right there, and she's like, let me just grab this real quick.
Yeah. It is very funny. I imagined it to be a much thinner beam so that she could pull it. I think this would probably be too heavy for her.
No, she's so impassioned that it's like when a mom picks up a car.
Yeah,
you know what
this
I
is
mean?
A car,
like to save her child.
And her theory is her baby.
She's imagining that the pillar is about to crush Taylor, and
that's how she's able to hype herself up. She uses lungs adrenaline to turn into a dragon.
Yeah.
Where does this fire come from? Adrenaline?
Yeah, this is where Tattletale and Taylor's powers leech directly out of alternate versions of each other's bodies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she has just like withered away several alternate.
Like several Taylors.
Yeah.
It's fine. She killed some Taylors earlier too. It's no big deal.
No big deal. So what are your thoughts about this chapter? Did you reread it or did you skip?
No, I reread it.
Okay. I wasn't sure. I'm never sure of your process until we talk about it.
Oh, yeah, I always reread. I can't skip anything. I wouldn't know what the fuck was happening. And I didn't know this is like my third it's my third or fourth like hard read through, right? Like
Yeah.
and I had just there's lots of moments in Worm and Ward where I don't necessarily know what's going on, but I understand. Well, actually, it's Blasto says the same thing later. It's just like listening to Shakespeare. I don't really know what's going on, but it doesn't matter because I get the broad strokes, and so like I knew what was being said here. I did not understand what the fuck they were physically doing until I read it 6,000 times to try to figure out why Scrub is in a hole and why like what Tattletale is actually like showing Taylor right here. Like I didn't understand that shit. So I don't know. It's like I don't know if that means that it needs better explained. I think the fact is that I'm stupid.
I will say we were talking about something earlier about you reading the scrub part over and over and over again, and it did remind me that like I'm glad that I read Ward like with my eyeballs because one, the impact of certain sections, the fact that I would get stuck on them, they would kind of like it would elongate moments a lot if I was like focused on them, but two, if something was confusing, I would just keep like does not compute, go back and like keep hitting it until I like understood. So I felt like I had a very firm grasp of every scene.
Yeah.
Whereas like an audiobook, you have to actually rewind it.
I just always go, I'll probably understand it later, and then I barrel through.
Well, you also probably have the like it's reasonable for you to expect that you're going to read this again for Ward.
Yeah. But also it's like I don't know. That's sometimes just how reading is, and I don't like to get too hung up on things. I'll probably figure it out.
That's the problem is I do get hung up on stuff, so
yeah.
It does impact my reading of some books when I'm like really when I don't mesh with the way that the author like talks.
Yeah.
Greg accurately points out those other Taylors were probably big nerds anyway, so like no loss.
Yeah, it doesn't matter that they got super killed.
Yeah. All right, well we could probably move on to Blasto.
Yeah. Did you want to do Blasto or do you want to do the characters for this first?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, let's go through the characters and the world building and crap for this because these are very different chapters.
Yeah, they just like some like I said, like I feel like sometimes like the bookends like mesh, but like sometimes they don't.
So we'll kind of go through from beginning to end. We start with we'll do like order of importance. There's some background people we see that are like two horned teenage heroes. So a lot of goat themed and ram themed people. You got Scapegoat kind of being carted along with them, but he doesn't have any lines.
I forgot he was there. he's blind, so he's just been like laying completely still. Like
he has all of Taylor's injuries, so he pretty much can't walk, and he has like constant chest pain, talk. And he's got like smoke lung, and whatever, everything. And then who else we got? We got Gully, who's a new person, who's case 53 that Tecton's very protective of. we see that Tecton is constantly like a super like good guy and is like, all right, I'll take the blame for your bullshit, and then I'll like make sure nobody insults Gully, and like, you know, I'm not gonna yell at you when you say something really like that pisses me off about Raymancer.
Yeah, Tecton's got like good morals.
Yeah, yeah.
He's not like a true blue cape because I feel like true blue are more like lawful goods. He's much more of like a neutral
I think he's like a
like a
better person than like the rules based heroes.
yeah, yeah. It's like he's just more okay with like trusting his own moral compass above like the law and the rules and stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, it's from my standpoint, he's much better at it than if he just let the everything do as it pleased. Anyway,
Yeah.
but Gully, sort of, in a way, down on her luck, doesn't think that she's gonna get like a real promotion ever. Gets to sort of play at being in charge here, but like as soon as a real situation starts, there will be a protectorate member who's actually in charge. You know, it's
Always.
true. Um, so she kind of gets that she's like stuck with this, and Tecton has a like more positive view of it, but I can't tell if that's like him not being fully realistic or if that's him just trying to stick up for her. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I think he like doesn't want her to give up kind of thing.
Yeah. So, um, yeah, and then we got Regent being he gets some good quips, but he's also got that really unflattering moment that reminds you that oh yeah, Regent's kind of like he's kind of a piece of shit.
He's just always like that.
Yeah.
It's like at least he says it to himself. And I mean, but you could argue that he only did that because Tecton was like, I will literally leave if you say anything.
Yeah, yeah. Um and you know what? I feel like Taylor putting bugs in his mouth. Fair. Because it's also like revenge for all the times that he's a total asshole to her in normal life.
Yeah.
So it's like built up. It's like, look, sometimes you go too far, and I've already got an excuse.
And that's when you got bugs in mouth.
Yeah.
Look, this was not nearly as bad an attack as what she did to Barker that one time.
Yeah, and I think it was probably, in my opinion, when like Wanton tried to follow her a chapter or two ago, and she put up a bug screen, and bugs went in his mouth and nose. That's kind of
And she's like,
unacceptable. Like,
no, that was so bad because she was like, "Oh, I need to talk to my team alone," and then like waits like half a second before like throwing it up, and then she's like, "They got the message because they got bugs in their mouth."
yeah, yeah. Oh my
I
god.
would have reported that so fast. I would have been like, "Miss Alicia, they said they were gonna be good.
They keep putting bugs in my mouth.
They keep putting bugs in my mouth."
Ostensibly allies. They're never like actually enemies. Like Wanton got that, and he's not even her enemy.
He's not even mad.
Yeah. He was being chill. He was just walking after you for a second.
Mhm.
Anyway, he's here, and he's still seemingly he's not mad at these guys somehow. Who else do we got? Gru's gone. Rachel's
I feel like there's a
here.
bunch of people here doing nothing. Like Rachel doesn't do anything.
She's kind of doing that thing where like she can be in a whole scene and like not say anything, and that's just normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then I guess to the heart of the matter, the real oh Grace is also here and not doing anything.
Yeah.
The two important people are Tattletale and Skitter, Taylor and Lisa.
Yeah. Lisa's acting all kinds of crazy.
I feel like Taylor is controlled in a way, but also acting really crazy.
Uh-huh.
Like that part that I just wrote as "I'm not crying, you're crying." She's like,
Oh my gosh, yeah. She's acting like really like Lisa's like making weird moves and stuff and then like getting angry that people aren't like into it with her. But Taylor's like actively telling people they just need to like get over their friend who's literally gonna die.
yeah,
Like in like less than a week probably. She's like, I really think you should be focusing on the topic at hand. And then he like totally freezes and like stares at her, and then she's like, he's probably just thinking.
oh man, it's so good.
Oh, she's so like inappropriate with how she just like talks to Tecton, and then she like shames Gully for giving him empathy, and she's like, she's gonna break his heart.
Yeah, yeah. I totally. It's so funny because I totally get the moment where Tattletale is, that I pulled out where it's the careful if you've been hit, and then she's like, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Like I totally get that because it's like you'll have already completed the dangerous part, and people will be like cooing and stuff, and it's just like, look, it's already over. Like I can't go back in time and not have done that, and I was successful.
It's already over. It's all good. We got the freaking pillar.
Yeah, yeah.
We got the pillar with the circle in it.
I need the pillar with the circle in it.
I need the pillar with the circle in it right this second, and it's worth getting possibly scooped.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Um, I guess I don't have too much more specific to say about those two, even though they're both acting crazy. We'll sort of talk about it as we go through the powers crap, but I do want to talk more. Let's see, right? I'm trying to see where it starts. Okay. Yes. Okay. So they start talking about it, and they talk about how it transplanted the different matter from another world, and then Tattletale starts talking about how she thinks the Manton effect works, and more or less, there are the safeties that are built in for people are built by being like, oh, when Shadowstalker is in her shadow state, then stuff in similar Earths that don't have the building, or like a similar Earth that does have the building, she wants to use as a floor. Like either way, she's like selectively, without knowing it, picking places that work, and so she's kicking off of those people or those places while still being intangible on
Yeah,
Earth
like it's probably based on like what her idea of the ground is at the moment.
Yeah, like she can sloop through floors or she can like use floors. So it's selective to what she wants.
Hmm.
But also probably that like electricity like messing with her state, like it would make sense if it like somehow blocked the interdimensional travel or whatever, or that, yeah, I don't know, it just sort of
Hmm.
makes sense to me. And then they talk about where they get their energy for stuff. There's various stuff like they think all the hot air around Sundancer is shunted out into a similar Earth, so probably she's just like murderizing people as she moves around near her own sun. Um,
Yeah.
we have stuff like we don't know the source of power for Tattletale's power or Taylor's power, and Taylor's power goes forever all the time and would
Mhm.
probably take up lots and lots of energy. Um,
I like to think that there's an alternate Earth with a bunch of tattletales with normal brains, like running around to try to like learn skills and hack things like as fast as fucking possible as like tattletales summoning is the knowledge.
that would be funny. I don't think that's how her power works, but I like that
I'm
version.
pretty sure that's how it works. They're like, oh my god, Tattletale needs to break into this fucking phone, okay. And then they like all gather together, have to fucking hammer it out as quickly as possible. Before she gets enraged.
I like the when I know this hasn't happened yet, but when Defiant looks at people and sees like a weird thing around them, he sees that Tattletales is just a bunch of like disembodied different types of eyeballs and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Gross.
Greg says, "Wonder if anybody has tried exposing Shadow Stalker to magnets while she tries to use her power." I mean, fucking magnets. How do they work? Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
So, yeah, we kind of learn a lot about like the multi-dimensional stuff. I know we've been talking about it on this show the whole time, basically.
Yeah, vaguely.
We've been trying to talk around it, but
about.
it backfills so well onto everything, and like I definitely think that this could be a thing where like he already had worked out this is how he wanted the powers to sort of be and what he wanted them to stem from. But like I still find it really impressive the way it like when you know this, then everything kind of clicks.
Slides in perfectly, yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, okay, so the power is doing this, and it's using like the fact that almost all the powers come from just like shifting to a different dimension or whatever, a different parallel universe. Like, then it's just like, oh, yeah, okay, what? I guess, yeah. but yes, this everything jives more.
I like totally get Tekton's reaction too, where he's like, yeah, I guess, but
yeah,
because it's like, why would that be the case? Like, why everybody basically has the same power, but like a really it's doing a specific action or whatever. So it's really like, I don't know. It's like,
well, the power is used. I would almost say it. Like the or the multi-parallel Earth, whatever aspect of it, it's like how they operate on the most basic level, but that's like saying that a computer speaks only binary. It's like it can do all these complicated things and like figure out all these actions if we just like put the parts in the right order. And so that's like only a basic operation. And it kind of reminds me of how like the flight, like there's a lot of capes like Aegis who just got really shitty flight because they just got like more or less a really low tier like junk data style power, but given the context of like fighting in a human like mostly on a 2D plane in a 3D world because of how the ground and gravity work, then like just being able to hover off the ground even though it's slow is automatically a really good extra power even though they think of it as like junk. So I don't know, there's weird stuff like that, and what more on the chapter? So, Tattletale's questioning
gives the idea that the passengers are really large, which like I feel like they haven't talked about before.
Yeah, I think this is the first time I had really realized, because they had talked about in the trigger events the like large vastness of the overall entity, but I hadn't thought of the individual powers as being as big as they are.
Yeah, do you know how big they are?
Well, I think that they are like variable in size, but I think the whole idea that like the entire vastness of a single power could be like a moon apiece, like that wouldn't shock me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll see. You see stuff in War that is more like the raw powers, and it's like big, but it's not like a Titanic scale like that. So I think it's still just like an avatar of the thing. I don't think you ever really see the fullness, I guess. I don't know.
Phil
Maybe I'll take
said,
that back.
I would hate to actually get flying as a power. I'd worry every moment it would stop working.
Oh,
That's why
man.
you get like a really bad Aegis one and just like you can just hover off the ground a little bit.
Yeah, some of those. If somebody has a trigger event near you, your powers do stop working for a moment, so you would stop flying.
Oh, dude, what if Taylor got bitten by a bug while her power was shut off for a second?
What if Taylor got bitten by a bug? Well, no, you gotta remember, Taylor's
It'd be like
power.
such a betrayal.
Taylor's power overwrites the instincts,
Oh,
so they
you're
would
right,
keep
you're
doing
right.
her last command. So if her last command was "bite me like a bug,"
Then it would happen. Bill said 1/10 of an inch hover power. That I would like. Yeah, same. And then like nobody would ever even notice, and so you could just use it all the time.
yeah.
You just moonwalk.
I think that flying doesn't wear you out, which is
Yeah, I
like
think it
a
probably
big deal.
depends on the person or whatever, but at least for Victoria, like she doesn't get worn out. She'll get like tired in the same way like sitting in a car makes you tired.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah, Master Moonwalker.
Yeah. Is there anything else? We get that great Regent comment, or maybe you're turning another Brockton Bay into a cold, barren wasteland.
Mhm.
That one's a classic. Don't want to think about
I
it, I
like
thought. I wasn't, it wasn't like I could even turn off my power, short of killing myself or removing every bug from my vicinity.
that's not Taylor be like, there's no ethical consumption under capitalism and then buys from Shein. She's like she's like, because I can't turn it off all the way, I might as well have it at full fucking blast.
Yeah,
Nothing
yeah.
I can do about it.
I gotta turn on the money hose. I can't change anything. Um, and then we get it's a bit of a leap to go from looking at a piece of pavement to thinking on that scale. And then we get it's only a theory, a game theory by
Yeah,
then
it literally could be just that Scrub has that specific power, that he has spontaneous transportation rather than spontaneous combustion, whatever they think
which
it
yeah,
is.
because they had thought it was matter annihilation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
this I mean, you're right that it could just be another thing, but I think that she was already on the track of this being the case. You know what I mean?
No, I totally agree. Like I know that like Tattletale's onto it, but like Texan just showed up, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
So
yeah.
I get him being like, "Oh, I don't know, dude."
Yeah, and this is when she explains how they're huge, and that's when Tecton says it's nonsense. Um, oh, and then she does another. It is just a theory. Um, and then Gully asks why, and that's when we sort of got back to my thing.
Mhm.
And they still talk through more. They're saying how it's important that Echidna is not an endbringer and maybe has a broken passenger or whatever, or the passenger trying to manifest. And then
Mhm.
Wanton gets in on the conversation briefly, being the one to bring up the size of a city or a moon. I think that they just do a lot to lay groundwork and like finally answer questions in a way that it it's not very hard to process, and it's still
Yeah.
just I don't know. I kind of think this chapter is a big like oh, and then we get like
Yeah.
tons of stuff like that in Blasto's chapter too. Really,
Yeah. I don't know. I love when like part of the sci-fi or fantasy plot is just like understanding, like discovering what the magic system really is. Like I
yeah,
don't know. I just like think that it's like it like adds like such like a cool mystery on top of everything. And so chapters like this, you're like, oh, yes.
yeah. No, I agree. This feels like not as big, but like similar stuff to when. Well, I guess it's weird because this is bigger actually, but it feels
Mhm.
in the first read like it's the other way around. The Arc 14 chapter where you learn that Legend and all the Triumvirate are part of Cauldron directly and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
At the time, that felt like it was like the biggest thing, and now I'm like, no, this is the biggest thing.
Yeah. But yeah, she hasn't even done the crazy shit yet. We haven't even seen like
Yeah.
like how I don't know. I also just like I feel like a lot of Wildbow's reveals are kind of like this where it's like it's not just the one reveal. It's like a ramp up reveal where like it starts with this and then like it's gonna end with them like blasting the portals open or whatever, like as like confirmation and everything. But like same with the Legend chapter where you're like, oh, and then you're like, oh.
Yeah,
And it
yeah.
gets like more and more like it like ramps up like all the things you're learning. I don't know.
Well, I agree. I agree, and I think that how to say, there's the way that I lost my train of thought. It's something about the way that the reveal happens. Oh yeah, no, I wanted to say that it draws all of the powers together in a way, like the source of the powers, and like the more that you learn about them and all that, makes it coherent. Whereas like in a Marvel or a DC, everyone kind of gets powers from like totally different sources, and like not that that's inherently bad or whatever, but it's just like this is all thematically coherent and all goes together. Whereas like I don't really know how Thor and Captain America relate to each other in a way, because it's just like one of them is made from a serum and one of them was just born able to withstand and shoot lightning, and like I don't know, like they're also like different and like weird in that way, and they don't cohere together. Like there's science powers, and then there's like alien powers, and then there's like magic powers, and they kind of interact in weird ways, but it's very
they could have all
ill-defined.
stayed in their own separate like universes and it like would not have made any difference.
Yeah, yeah. Um it just feels like strange, and like, I'm not a big Marvel fan, but I do like some of them. Don't get me wrong. Anyway,
mhm. I feel like Ragnarok. Like after you said Thor, I was like, oh, I need to watch Ragnarok again.
Yeah, Thor Ragnarok's one of the ones I really like. So
I think they should stick with like full comedy ones like that. I think the problem is the balance is usually all messed up.
Yeah, like the really funny ones, like despite it being a Chris Pratt special, the Guardians of the Galaxy is really, I think, good.
Yeah, I really like Guardians of the Galaxy.
It just kind of balances stuff right and has good pacing. Anyway, we can go on to the Blasto chapter. Let me start the
art. Yeah, you can change the art.
It's a man.
It's some dude. Also, I don't know why the art is sideways. Don't worry about it. I must have been drawing sideways. It's like I was just, but I am really like I really like this art. This is probably one of my favorite interlude arts that we've done so far. It was a little bit difficult because there's absolutely no description of Blasto. He is seemingly Hispanic. That could mean literally anything, Yeah. So he got like crazy I kind of gave him like crazy like Einstein mad scientist hair. And then he's just some guy, dude. Don't worry about the thing coming out of his mouth. That's just like it's like a metaphor.
What did Vale say? GOTG1 was shockingly good.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Ah, yes, Guardians of the Galaxy.
You did this sideways because the discussion time is later than usual and everyone could be laying down and listening, and it's thoughtful. Yeah, that's why I did it. I'm sure I was probably laying down, which is why the canvas turned. Anyways, Blasto. Love that guy. He got invited to go to Accord's lair after his own lab got like blown up by what it's like the E88 branch. Which one is it? The
It's
Fenrir's or whatever.
Yeah, it's the ones who were Fenrir's chosen. It's all the ones who weren't with Crusader and Purity. So
Yeah.
it's Rune, Othala, Victor. I feel like they definitely have more people than that, but I'm just not remembering everyone.
Yeah, Cricket,
Oh yeah, Cricket,
freaking that
Storm
guy.
Tiger.
Yeah,
Maybe
the
he was still
Storm
alive.
Tiger.
He got hit with a glass explosion. It was unclear to me if he died.
Oh, good. Um, well,
Oh
I,
wait,
I
no,
kind
we
of go
saw
back
him
and
later. Never mind.
yeah, I think we see him later. I kind of go back and forth between names in this chapter because sometimes Ray is being Ray and sometimes he's being Blasto. Okay, so
hmm.
I usually go by whether they're costumed, and although he's technically costumed, he's usually just being himself and not,
Oh,
you
I
know,
almost do
what.
it as a joke that I call her that I call Taylor Skitter whenever she's in costume because the blurred line is like so much earlier than where we're at, like where
Oh yeah.
she tried to make it like different for like 5 seconds and then it got blurred like instantly. Like she got slightly better at it, then she got worse and worse and worse at it.
Oh yeah, I know. But I like to call people their, you know, their cape names when they're in costume. It's
Hmm.
like it's like part of the story.
Yeah.
But Ray's like coming to a Cord's fucking lair mansion thingy. And he's like pretty tentative about the whole thing because they kind of the two of them have a history, you know, former lovers. But Accord assures him that he'll be safe as long as he cooperates. So they kind of like go through the house and it's just chock full of Cord's costumed employees that he calls the ambassadors. And they essentially all have like formal wear costumes, which I do find charming.
He like wants everybody to be hot and sexy, but he's disgusted by sex. He's just like,
I know. It's
uh,
like he
you must
he like
arouse
he
me,
like
but I will get angry if I get a boner.
I know he can't help but like have all of his employees all in silk dresses all the time.
There is nothing weird
Um,
and suspect about what's happening.
Yeah. So Ray asks, he's like, "You're not going to make me dress like them, are you?" And Accord tells him that he's just going to try his best to pretend he doesn't exist while he's here. And he even has it down to having designated areas and backways that Ray is allowed to go to and nowhere else. And he's going to be working alone. And help. The plan is that he'll be there helping to take down their mutual enemies, mostly the Federer's chosen or all the remaining white supremacists, until Ray can get back onto his feet. So that's pretty nice of him. I love Accord.
I
I love Accord because he's like a better Coil. Like I think that he's better at doing what Coil wants to do.
he may be better at doing what Coyle wants to do, but like I just still think he's such a he's too he's too much to ever have me not think he's like I think his murderousness like he just it's unsustainable.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely not like a good person or a good cape, but I think he's like a he doesn't have to perform the way that Coil does to be who he is.
Yeah.
Vale had said, I bet he uses the word coiffed.
Quaffed?
Coiffed? Coiffed?
Mm-hmm.
One of those. So
Coiffed.
Accord leads. Sorry, my dogs are fighting right next to me. If you could hear them,
Oh, I could hear
but
them, and
Accord,
I was thinking about how I should resist talking about them, but
you can talk about them real quick while I pet them to calm
okay.
down.
Well, the dogs I got to take care of them for only like 6 hours, but it was a good six
Best
hours.
6 hours of your life.
Yeah, exactly. I was just like I was thinking like Victoria gets to be around these dogs all the time. Oh my god.
It's often like really overwhelming. Like I'll be sitting there and it like hits me and it like smacks me in the face and I'm like, oh, like I can't handle them sometimes. Like they're just so cute and so lovable. Um, even though they're so bad. Um, Greg said Victoria's pronunciation of coiffed would get her murdered by a cord. Yeah, I know. A cord would kill me so fast if I if I was trying to be one of the ambassadors or whatever.
See, that's the thing is, I'm kind of a piece of shit. So like, I would not want to be around a cord. He'd just be
No,
like,
no,
I
no.
have to
I
kill
wouldn't.
you. Ah.
Yeah, I would get killed really quickly.
Yeah. So, um,
So Accord leads Ray into a big ass basement, seemingly like it's like as large as the entire house, which is like a mansion. Um, and it's fully stocked with like tools and materials, including like a little mini petting zoo, super cute. And it's like so it's just leagues above like what Ray is used to working in, obviously. But along with this, Accord has also provided a computerized database. Interesting. That will provide quote unquote samples upon request. So Ray immediately like clocks that and he's like, fuck yeah, I gotta see what's going on here. So he goes and selects to view the database, and it turns out to be full of cape names. And he finds and like selects Blasto and gets to read a little bio about himself. Super cute. But he puts two and two together and asks Accord how the hell he got his hands on the PRT's records. This seems like it's Taylor's fault.
yeah, I was gonna say this is the stuff they stole in Arc 10, and it's like Tattletale is in multiple ways like dealing to herself throughout this, where she stole the stuff and was paid by Coil, and then Coil was selling the stuff to Accord, and then Accord has less resources and has to like work. Spoilers, he'll reach out to the Undersiders later. So he has to try and work with them because he's got these depleted resources from buying her information.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's always Taylor's fault. It's so crazy. But when he like turns around to be like, what the hell, where'd you get all this stuff? Accord's already left, and he left his ambassador Citrine to babysit. I feel like we saw Citrine before, but I guess we didn't. I was like, oh yeah, the throwback, but she's not been here yet. So back to the database. Eidolon and Legend, they're both missing. Interesting. But he can find the data for lesser known, well, not lesser, but like less prevalent heroes like Chevalier. Do you say it's Chevalier, right? Or is it
I say Chevalier, but it's supposed to be Chevalier.
Chevalier. So he can click into more details and it'll just like give him pages of power data. So he backs out of the database section and then selects the other option, view samples. I have a quote here.
I'll read the quote in a moment, but I will say I think that the Eidolon and Legend missing is like I think that that's because the data was corrupted at the last second by Dragon, and she destroyed part of the, like, when they were infiltrating, remember?
Yeah, so she probably like got all the big names first.
Yeah, who knows? But his eyes widened. Many were samples from life forms that various tinkers and masters had created. His own were in there. That wasn't the surprising fact. He selected the last option on the list. To the right of the computer, in a hermetically sealed case, a robotic arm extended and deposited a microscopic sample on a slide. A fragment, so small as to be nearly impossible to see, of one of the Seamerg's feathers. Dun,
My
dun,
goodness.
dun!
Da, da, da.
It's like a Goosebumps thing. He found the monster blood.
Citrine mocks Blasto for like how excited he's getting, and Ray's just he's like baffled not only why like that Accord got his hands on this, but that he gave him access to it. So he starts prepping for tinkering, and Citrine asks, she's like, "Are you into the chatty types or whatever?" Because she's bored and would rather that he talk instead of just like continuing to grunt and gasp and emote generally. So he starts talking about his quote unquote art, like he's Bonesaw. What a freak. So he brought his own seeds, and he says they're kind of like stem cells. So he like combines the little seed with the DNA. It'll form two bodies. He'll kill the weaker one, rinse and repeat. So over hours or days, he'll get a spooky plant animal minion. Interesting power. It's like very. I mean, we don't see a lot of his work. I mean, at least I haven't so far as I've gotten in like Ward or whatever, but
yeah,
kind of want to see what he can do.
I think the only other stuff that we see you've already seen, like during the flashback stuff that's set before Worm.
Yeah. So he says he's just gonna mess around with this and start doing it with some samples and try to replicate an Endbringer. And Citrine's immediately like, I'll be right back. I need to go upstairs. And
I actually don't know about this.
She's like, holy shit, good thing I asked him to talk. But Blasto's like, Accord already, like, no, he knew what he signed up for. Like, he gave this to me intentionally. Accord doesn't make those kind of massive, crazy mistakes. And Citrine says if Accord can't control the beings, then it kind of actually doesn't sound like him, which does give Ray pause. But she interrupts, and he's like tired of dealing with her, so he just like goes and turns on the TV for her, so she'll leave him alone.
Yeah.
Real cute. So
I'm gonna watch TV. Wink.
Yeah. He takes a closer look at the Seamerg feather, which under a microscope is formed with crystals rather than cells. Weird.
And whenever you zoom in enhances, it just zooms and enhances onto the same image. Yeah. It's a fractal.
Yeah.
The infinity sign.
So he starts growing one of the plant fetuses with the Seamerg sample, but none of the branches, like none of the actual entities, were alive. And he realizes that the Seamerg is missing some crucial features that life requires, such as having organs. So he's going to have to mix things up a little bit. And so he splices in Mirrodin's sample. Greg said, formed with crystals, proof that this is secretly in the Steven Universe.
Steven Universe, the SUU.
The SUU.
It was lunacy, tampering with Endbringer-related materials, but he couldn't shake the idea that he was onto something. He'd sustain the Endbringer tissues with other living tissue that could feed it energy or nutrients. His seeds would bridge the gap.
So he starts spinning up a quick Igor. He calls it a homunculus or whatever, but I don't like saying that word.
So you don't like the word homunculus?
I mean, I like it when other people say it. I don't like saying it.
Okay, I gotcha.
It's an Igor, okay? Same idea. So he goes and just starts that up, and then he goes back and checks on his Seamerg project and selects a viable branch to start growing more samples. And then he decides to name her Morrigan, I guess. What about Mirrodin? Like,
well, but Morrigan's another character from the.
I know, but whatever.
And Morgan's in that card game you don't like.
But he's interrupted by another one of the ambassadors turning up the volume on the TV. And he sees that on the news. The Slaughterhouse 9 are here in Boston. Oh no.
Okay.
And they're going
real quick.
toe to toe. Go ahead.
Apparently, the Morrigan was a renowned Celtic goddess associated with war, destiny, and fertility. So if
Oh,
he's
she
just
likes
going from
destiny.
yeah, if he's just going for the destiny and war angle, and then the fertility is a good luck, like crossing your fingers that this one stays
Well, that's
alive.
what the Mirrodin part added is the sexiness.
Yeah, Mirrodin and his sexy beard.
And his sexy he's very
His
like
fertility.
Merlin coded. Yeah. So their Slaughterhouse 9 is here in Boston, and they're currently fighting some of the dragon mechs that they deployed. But the cameraman gets knocked over and the video goes out, which is kind of disappointing because Ray wanted to see more of Dragon's work.
Mm-hmm,
Really sad. Anyways, back to what we were doing. He, he's so like, I mean, we'll talk about it in the character section, but he's so like, oh man. Anyways,
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. Wow.
like weird that they're here. Let me just like not think about the consequences of that at all.
Yeah.
So he checks back in on Morrigan. Picking up the less viable branches again. There's like a built-in laser that Accord put in the tank for him. It's
Yeah,
very
so you could
sweet.
laser the clones and just keep
He like
murdering
knows
them.
he like knows exactly what, like he's so considerate that he knew exactly what he would need and then like set up a special computer for him. They're
Yeah.
kind of cute. I kind of ship it.
You're
Well,
gonna have to sell me harder than that.
well, we'll get into it. Um, so it's looking more like the sea mark now. It's got like dark feathers and hair. And he ponders again over what Accord's plan is, like getting him all these resources and but no worries. We'll just keep doing what we're doing. So he continues to grow and kind of prune the plant baby. But he's pleased to find that it's developed a Corona Palencia. Oh my gosh, perfect. So Ray sprays himself with some pheromones quickly to try to keep the creations on his side, just depending on what Accord has planned. And his babysitter is getting distracted. He's distracted with the news, and Citrine had gone upstairs, so they don't notice. But Ray lets loose his completed Igor to help him around the office, and he has him dispose of the slides or whatever that came out of the sample. And he can't believe how much time has passed when he hears the door. I heard the door slam. Sorry, you know that song?
I don't know.
Okay, well, it's a country song. And it starts with, I heard the door slam. Every time I see the door slam, I think of it. So he's like, man, they must be changing shifts again. But oh my God, it is not a new ambassador. And he turns to find his current ambassador has been Swiss cheesed. She got mutilated by a hot goth woman with an augmented body. And I have a quote here.
All right, but before we go to the quote, I want to pull out Greg's most recent thing. He was saying about the so-called Igor of yours, that if it's hot and beefy, he could be homunculus.
That's worse. I don't like puns, okay, Greg?
I knew you don't like puns, and that's why I had to highlight it.
I didn't know that I didn't like puns until I guess I started being friends with you guys.
Yeah. You met me, and then you realized that you hate puns.
And I was like, I think that I hate this.
I even feel like you used to like puns more, and now you hate them more.
I think that I had been pretending, and then I like finally was like, you know what? I don't need to pretend anymore.
I don't need to lie about who I am. I can hate puns.
I can be a hater.
Yeah. Yeah. So, her hair was long and white. Her eyes wide with irises and pupils small. Her lips had been painted black. Her arms, though, machinery, had been crammed into the arms, and they'd been extended to nearly twice the length, the fingers drawn out long, Sparks flew as the woman moved one arm and she winced.
Crazy. Love her. So
I'm sure
yeah, I
she's going to
just
be around
realized
a long time. Nothing
I'm sure
bad's
she's
going
gonna
to
be around
happen to
a really long
her.
time. Well,
Oh my god.
we'll see. Anyways, Bonesaw skips on into the room after her, and she greets Blasto, compliments his lab and stuff. Super cute. And he casually floods Morrigan with nutrients and asks about the modified woman. He's like trying to stop. The thing about Blasto doesn't think at all. Like there's there's not really any inner like thought processes happening like in the writing. And so he's like you don't really like he doesn't feel any I mean maybe he's just not thinking and feeling, or maybe he's just not expressing it. I really don't know.
I gotta say, I got really distracted by the thing you posted. I missed almost everything you just said because
Oh, do you want to watch it together?
um we could.
No.
I'm worried that if I played it and the system sound was playing. See, I can't have you in it if I'm listening to it, you know what I mean? So we can't
Uh-huh.
live react together because I have just the whole system sound. Yeah.
I see.
So, um
Well,
but I was distracted because this guy's name is fucking Chris Cagle. Like that's so close to the the Kegels.
I don't
Um
know.
Male Kegels.
Gross.
And the song is called "What Kinda Gone."
Yeah.
What kind of
Yeah,
name
that's
is
what
that?
I heard the door slam like
Yeah,
that.
I,
It's
I I had
'cause it's
assumed.
okay, I'll just tell you the premise of the song.
Mm-hmm.
He hears the door slam and he couldn't tell, was it just the wind or was she mad at him? All hell. And then the rest of the song is like, because when she leaves, she says, "I'm gone," and he doesn't know what kind of gone, like if she is leaving him permanently, kind of
Mm,
thing. So
yeah.
that's what the meaning is.
I'm such a trustworthy man that my woman would leave me at the drop of
Yeah.
a hat
And then
and never come
and then
back.
not know what kind of gone she's talking about. Vale said, "What is this about puns? You broke up. Maybe you said you want more puns." Yeah.
Dear
Bet.
Lord.
Come on, Vale.
Come on.
Show us what you got. Show me what you got. Anyways, sorry I got distracted, but well, I didn't get distracted. I distracted you with that song.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It just like completely like I was like Kegel. Anyway.
It's actually pronounced Cagley.
Mm.
Um, it doesn't matter what I was saying. Bonesaw approaches Morrigan, and oh, sorry. Bonesaw first she introduces Damsel of Distress. Remember that name because she's definitely not gonna die in this next scene. Bonesaw approaches Morrigan, who is still in her glass-like encasing, and she comments that she looks like the Sea Merg, and Ray confirms. So Ray briefly considers releasing Morrigan while the two Slaughterhouse 9 are distracted, but he needs to stall so that it can grow because it's like less than a year old still.
Yeah, yeah.
But luckily a distraction arrives in the form of Defiant, who Ray does not recognize, and he's like, "I wonder if that's Dragon," which is really funny.
Yeah. You know what's funny? Um,
Hmm.
I just remembered this is the part where he doesn't recognize Damsel, but they're supposed to know each
Yeah,
other, and so
you
she's
know,
mad that he doesn't.
because and it's even worse because Bonesaw says, "Oh, I know you," and then he says, "I know you too," and then he says, "Who is this?"
So
So he
good.
like recognizes somebody in front of her, which like it's Bonesaw, but like they've like I guess encountered each other before or whatever.
Mm.
It's just very. This is poor damsel. Like that's
Well,
her last
and the
moment
other
is
thing
like
is
being forgotten about.
the main reason Bonesaw knows who he is because of Damsel.
Oh God. Um. So,
Greg says maybe
Defiant
Blasto's
busts
just
in.
that savage.
Oh, true.
Yeah. Anyway.
Phil said Bonesaw is normally disarming, but Defiant has the perfect defense.
Yeah, he's already
Um,
been disarmed.
So, Damsel uses her power at Defiant. It's like a blaster power that seemingly warps and tears space in like a circular area. But Defiant evades the blasts. And in return, he stabs Damsel in the eyes and then slices her in half while she's down. She's not just down, she is face down. Oof, pretty bad. Like
Yeah.
I understand that like you gotta do it. But he's like she's like on the floor face down and he slices her in half while she's vulnerable. Um Bonesaw recognizes Defiant and she calls him Arms Man, which is funny. Um and she warns him that she's loaded with a bajillion plagues that will release into the air if he slices her in half, just like he did with Damsel. But Defiant doesn't give two shits, because why would he? The lab's quarantine safe, and Blasto's a villain. Honestly, Defiant would probably do it anyways, even if Blasto was a good guy. It's like, you gotta do what you gotta do to kill Bonesaw. Are you kidding?
Yeah. And make sure Bone C never shows up.
Vale said something offensive. I'm not gonna. I'm sensitive to the Blasto spine situation, okay? Blasto has too many spines.
He has one too many spines. Is
I
that
didn't
correct?
even write. If I had a penny for every spine that Blasto had, I'd have 2 pennies, which isn't much, but it's weird that it happened twice. Uh, so Defiant spears Bonesaw through the heart, and she calls him a coward for staying so far away. And I have a quote here.
The girl reached forward, clutching the shaft of the spear. She began pulling herself forward, hauling the spear shaft through the hole in her chest as she closed the distance inches at a time. She smiled as she did it. You know, it makes me think of Tom
It makes me think
Hardy.
of Taylor.
Well, that too. It does make me think of Taylor actually, because she'll do something like pull herself through a spike and then start laughing. It was a
It's
crazed
literally.
laugh. She'll think about herself.
A Veil said, but not if it has a pun embedded along with the extra spine. All right. All right, all right.
But
Gross bone saw is what I wrote about that.
true. Anyway, go on. I was just gonna talk about the dumb Tom Hardy dying in Star Trek thing.
No, God. So blades are spin out of the spear, mannequin style, and it like halts her movements. Now she can't like go forward or backwards. And so Defiant starts throttling her around. He's like waving her around on the fucking stick, and I can't with this scene. See, you're lucky I didn't draw this, okay? That would have been the funniest scene that we would have gotten so far is him like waving her around on this freaking
Yeah, he
spear.
keeps smacking her into the walls and the ceiling and stuff.
Yeah, like really embarrassing. Um, and Defiant. Oh, so like Bonesaw is like getting whacked around, and she's trying to appeal to Blasto. She's like, "You're gonna die too if I die." But as much as Ray wants to live, he wants Bonesaw to die more, and he's like, "Okay." So Bonesaw cracks into something in her mouth, and she spits acid or some kind of shit, which breaks the spinning blades in front of her. And so she cracks into another one and starts to prep to spit on Defiant. And he kind of like flings her off of it. Like this scene is just, it's like very violent. It's
Bonesaw
like,
is she's just impossible to kill. Like,
it's, he just like flings her off of it. And Defiant steps forward and he slices her in half. But unfortunately, She's got armor on her spine and organs. So like the organs seemingly like I think he like cuts around like the like belly area or like the lower
Yeah,
chest
she's just
area.
partially
So like
slooped out.
so her spine and her organs come out with the top of her body and she like abandons her legs, which they
Yes.
don't describe, but from what happens next, we do know that. Anyways, so Defiant, he deals with some rogue mechanical spiders, and Bonesaw throws some vials at him, and Defiant's no longer in the fight. He's like, Ray doesn't really know what happens to him, but like she like it's basically containment foam, like but like in a really goopy form, I guess.
Hmm.
It's like he's like in a goopy web or something. So Bonesaw's working on uncorking another vial, and she pushes it, smoking towards Ray. So he goes to make a run for it, but is grabbed by something and falls. And I pulled a quote here.
Yeah. Looking back, he could see her spine was prehensile, and that it had caught his foot, winding around the bridge of it.
Oh,
My
okay,
word.
Bonesaw. Prehensile. Why the fuck would she? Why?
You need a
Why? I hate
prehensile
that.
spine.
I think that's probably what, like, there's a lot of gross things in worm, and like some are grosser than this, but the prehensile spine, or like something about that is like just disgusting.
Yeah.
Vale said, Taylor would talk about the options when she is impaled. Then we would cut her to her maniacal laughter while she thinks about being intimidating. True. She'll be like, "Oh no, they saw me laughing while I was speared. They're like not gonna be as scared of me anymore. I was too vulnerable."
I was too emotionally vulnerable by ever showing any that wasn't like rage.
That isn't like it's just pure violence. There's not even any anger attached to it. So Bonesaw begins clawing up Ray's legs, and he's like clawing himself to his keyboard at the same time, and he hits the key to open Morrigan's tank, but unfortunately she flops to the ground and
He's
was
been
not
thinking this
viable.
whole time about how he's trying to buy enough time to, like even before
Yeah,
Defiant showed up. How,
yeah.
yeah,
He's like been like, oh, all I need to do is stall. And so everything he's been doing is basically like just waiting until she was big enough. And unfortunately she did not survive. So, well, maybe fortunate. Well, who knows whether if it was fortunate or unfortunate. So Bonesaw does something horrible to Ray, but we don't really need to worry about it. All you need to know is that Bonesaw has a full body to operate again, and Ray has somehow lost his ability. Interesting. So Bonesaw heads to the computer, and she's almost as excited as Blasto was to find all these samples available, including a wide assortment of former Slaughterhouse 9 members that she gets to peruse through. This isn't worrisome.
yeah.
So Defiant is apparently still like fighting for his life in the fucking corner and grumbling. And she rambles to herself about how she's going to replicate Blasto's work. And I have a quote here.
He's grumbling.
He says that he's like
Ah,
I
mm,
feel like he's doing that like thing that our boss
ugh.
Kevin will do sometimes when he gets angry, where he's like, "Shut the fucking captors." He like does this like really quiet, angry talking, but like I can't ever hear or understand what he's saying when he's doing it.
Oh man.
Um,
Anyway, so she stopped and turned toward the Morrigan. He could feel his blood run cold. Nah, Bonesaw said. Even I'm not that crazy.
so yeah, Bonesaw marches herself and Blasto, weird, interesting how that's happening, out of the lab with their acquired samples, leaving Defiant stuck in the lab caught in goop. And then when Dragon comes to save him, she confirms that they collectively killed 4 of the Slaughterhouse 9 members, which he's like still like it's never enough.
Pretty
And he tries to
good.
convince
4.
yeah. He tries to convince her to leave him and give chase to Jack and Bonesaw, but she's a simp. She needs to take care of her mans. And it takes for her to finish freeing him and then like walk all the way back to the shuttle, before he realizes that means that they actually successfully killed Manton, the Siberian. Aw, and ends on one of those
Yay!
high hopeful notes, you
First,
know?
we learn about the Manton effect in the previous chapter, then we kill Manton.
That was the only way to unlock the knowledge.
We no longer need you.
Yeah. Vale had said, there are tons of prehensile spines mentioned. The dogs have them also. Yeah, they have prehensile tails.
But their
That's
tails are like
different.
spines chained together.
Imagine, yeah, but it's different. It's like the fact that it's like wiggling out of your body, like
And all the
of your
other organs
torso.
are drooping, and you're like,
Yeah, it's
ooh,
like it's kind of like
ooh.
like I just imagine Sveta's like little droopy
Yeah.
testicle organs, and then like there's more testicle organs in this chapter, and then the prehensile tail. It's all just like adds up
The
to
amount of
something.
drooping is unacceptable.
Yeah. I don't like the
That's like you
dangling
could barely like,
organs.
you were just like losing it just there.
Yeah, it was too much for me. And then I scrolled up and looked at the Blasto picture, and I was like, oh, the spine. I couldn't draw. I feel like it turned out. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I was having trouble finding like a representation of, because I was going for like that. Like I felt like it was like a classic like weed poster. You know what I mean, right? But then when I was like
I mean,
trying
I
to
think
look
I
up
do,
what
but
I
I
wanted,
don't
I
think
wasn't
that.
finding the right kind of art. But you know, it's like you could see this like in a room of like
Hmm.
a really cool like hippie girl or guy. They got like shit draped all over the walls, and this is one of their posters, and it's like next to their records. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the like I couldn't draw the whole situation, but the blue and the red represent our Miss Riley Bonesaw.
Miss Riley Bonesaw.
Miss
Last name Bonesaw.
Riley
You know, it's shocking
Bonesaw.
that they didn't know she was going to be a cape, given that their last name was Bonesaw.
Give him the yeah, the family name.
She didn't even like take a new cape name. That's one of the strange parts too. It's a weird part of the story.
Well, she didn't need a secret identity. She's always in costume, kind of.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I didn't mention, well, we'll mention it when we get to the character part. Do you have any final chapter thoughts? I really liked this chapter on
Yeah,
f- another read through.
I think it's like a really interesting one, and there's a lot of information following up the other thing, and like the events that we see sort of unfold. Like I certainly didn't expect, for whatever reason, the Slaughterhouse 9 stuff to like, oh, 4 of them are dead now, you know, and
Yeah.
yeah, um, yeah, it's like a whole thing. Although they mostly killed no names. They only killed the Siberian out of people we care about.
Yeah, but like she's a big one. They can definitely like, I mean, you would hope that things might get better from now on.
Yeah, yeah.
From here on out.
Greg had a
Um,
geometry teacher named Mr. Slaughter, but he wasn't a supervillain, or so he wanted us to think. Yeah.
actually pronounced laughter.
Slafter?
Yeah, like laughter.
Yeah, Slafter.
Laughter.
As far as the arc, this is our final mid-arc interlude.
Oh yeah.
Ever. Wait, no, there's the Saint one way later on. Okay, so there's
Yeah.
one
But
more.
we got a while.
One more. Ever.
One more.
One more time, as the song goes. Um, I don't know, just a lot more setup. So okay, that's all I have to say about the arc. Let's talk about them characters.
Do you want to go least important to most important? We can start with
A whole bunch of
uh
ambassadors that I don't even remember the names of.
a bunch of ambassadors. Citrine is will appear later.
Oh,
She's like it's like kind of like a big contrast between her and Accord. Like you would think that his ambassadors were kind of like him, but she's like she didn't give a shit, dude. She's like,
yeah.
"Oh my God, I'm so bored. Please, please give me something to do."
It's kind of weird how like out of line with Accord that Citrine is, given that she's like basically the his number one like person.
Yeah, but she was like groomed for it, basically.
He is a
And so
groomer.
like she's like, yeah. I didn't want to say the word, but then I was like, yeah, but she is. Like so it's fine. But like she was hand selected and then brought up to be like what she is now.
I was looking at the
Um
profiles of very many teenage girls.
and I saw you specifically.
Yeah.
You're special, Citrine. Um Yeah, so Citrine's there. She just seems a little goofy and sassy. We've also got a Cord who isn't like a huge deal this chapter. He's I mean, he's doing his Accord shit. He's got some kind of weird master plan going on because as I agree with Ray that like he didn't just give him this stuff and then think that he wasn't gonna do some crazy shit with it.
I do think Accord is like literally dumb enough to try and get Blasto to create a bunch of deadly things and be like, I can control them with the pheromones now, and then he kills
Hmm.
Blasto and then is instantly killed by all the things, and he'd be like, oh no, I have been
Yeah,
felled by my own hubris.
I imagine that he did like some prep for like how he was going to be able to control them, but like who knows how what that looks like.
I just think
And
he's like
Ray
a
is like,
short-sighted moron.
yeah, that could be it. He's like, ah, he'll just create an Endbringer and then we can like go defeat the E88 with them real quick. No big deal.
No biggie.
No big deal. I just have all this DNA, like might as well put it to use, you know.
Dino DNA.
Might as well make him a supercomputer specially designed for him with a built-in laser, just like I know he likes.
Yeah, and then
To
once
their
he's
love.
built like two creations, I'll kill him because that'll be good enough, and then I'll have a limited supply
Yeah.
of the pheromone that'll run out. This is all
Hmm.
making sense.
I'm sure somebody could make him more pheromones.
I'm sure they could
Well,
give him Tinker Tech. It's fine.
they can figure something out. Yeah, he like Accord doesn't really do anything in this chapter. He just is like he is helping somebody out because of his own self-interest, the way that he do, you know, the way that
I
these type of
I do think that he could reasonably be expected to not do what Blasto was worried about and just use him as a blunt instrument against the current foes.
Yeah.
So he might not have like a plan to betray him to try and control stuff after. But it is pretty suspicion.
It's just like weird to like not go down there and be like, just so you know, there's like some crazy shit. Like he doesn't explain anything to him. He just provides him this thing and then like scrams in the middle of a conversation.
Yeah,
It comes off a certain way.
yeah.
Um, let's see. We can talk about I mean, nothing to say about Damsel. She was there.
And then
She
she
had the
died.
power. Yeah, they described that her she because we previously had heard about her before. They had suggested that she might be their next target or whatever. And they were like, but she has an uncontrolled power. And then Bonesaw's like, I fixed her power, but also did all this horrible stuff to her. She gives her like weird fucking metal finger hand
Mm-hmm.
knives.
Yeah.
Um, Greg says minor, unimportant character who probably isn't interesting anyways. For real. Hate her.
It sheared through her as if she weren't even there.
Yeah.
It's like you were never
Dams is
even
one
in
of my
this
favorite
story.
characters, but I'm glad that we get to see a little bit more of her maybe later. Um, let's see. Dragon doesn't really do any. I mean, Dragon's here. She killed Manton. Who knows how she did that? You know, probably the same way that the Undersiders almost did, like hunting him down or whatever. Um, like while the Siberians trapped or out of the picture.
Well, I think the idea is that they're fighting with a whole flight of whatevers. So, like, she's pinning down, let's say, Jack somewhere else, and the Siberian is just using invulnerability on Jack and leaping around with him. And then she's like, "Gotcha, bitch!" And she gets uses a different robot on men, you know, as you do.
Yeah. Get to see the lovely Bonesaw this chapter.
And nothing gross happens at all. She's
she does something really horrible. She's like so fucking hard to kill.
Yeah.
Just like he stabs her through the heart. He's flinging her around. She's like coughing up blood, but not because of what he's doing to her, but because she like accidentally bites her tongue while she's like trying to crack open these like capsules, which I assume they're like in her teeth.
Yeah, we saw it happen in the Taylor chapters.
Yeah. So she's like cracking her teeth open, and like that's why she's bleeding rather than anything that he's doing to her. She's like, I don't know, she's just like so good in a fight, but it's so horrible to watch.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah, it's also like it's funny because there's stuff I think there's stuff that you haven't even seen where like she has really disgusting stuff left up her sleeve that yeah. Anyway.
Really gross. Her spine not only was prehensile, I didn't describe the scene. Something happens and there's like mechanical like arms and stuff like come out of her spine to like like embed themselves into like the person's body that she's stealing, you know, like to connect up to things, but it's like she's like a centipede with like she's like a gross spine centipede on the bottom, and then she's like a little girl on the top.
Yeah. And it's like a
It's
full-size person who is like open mouth upward to have a little girl torso up there.
yeah, and she's like on she's just like on top of it. And his like mouth is getting ripped open. It's honestly, it's pretty horrible. It's one of the worst scenes that we've seen. I feel like we've seen the effect of a lot of Bonesaw stuff, but we don't usually see it in action like we did in this scene.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's kind of more horrifying to just see the effect, because imagine like they're like in a fight and then this shows up.
Yeah.
Be like, "Oh my God."
It's really bad. It's
It's really
it's like somehow even worse than the human pagoda thing she had.
yeah. It's it's really bad. Oh, poor Blasto. Anything else to say about freaking Bonesaw? I mean, you don't get any personality beats this time. She does cuss, like she will in situations where things are going really bad, like she breaks
She breaks
her
her
like weird
kayfabe.
facade.
Yeah.
Yeah. She breaks her morals.
You know, the thing is, I think that she's more likely to break it if Jack isn't there. No
True.
witnesses.
No witnesses. Everyone here is dead except for Blasto, maybe. How alive is Blasto at the end of the chapter?
He's still alive.
Okay.
Um, uh,
It's
We'll
so
talk
bad.
about it more in a different chapter.
Okay, we'll talk about it more later.
Yeah.
I like every time I read this, I think I like superimpose that he died while she was doing the thing, and then so when I reread the chapter, I have to remember that he didn't.
Yeah, he did not die.
He like puts in extra effort to do shit like that, like to keep him alive.
Yeah.
I'm sure that she had to like add more features to her scary ass spine dealio.
Well, she also does stuff just on the off chance that Jack will see it and be like, "That's hot." Um,
Like,
like
dude, that's so cool.
like when all of her like skeletal frames, like if you try and take them off or whatever, they like kill the person in a way that is nondescript but described as being way more painful than just normal. So it's like everything she makes is like a torture murder device. And
Yeah.
on the side of should we kill Bonesaw, like I'm with Blasto. Like I don't want to get spined. He had he been able to just die with her, it would have been a way better outcome.
Yeah, he should have thought ahead. He should have, I don't know. I mean, I know that she can like resuscitate people. That's the hard part about Bonesaw is even if you evade the situation uh prematurely, she will probably just bring you back to do horrible things to you.
Yeah, but I mean, like that's why you gotta like explode the whole room you're in.
Yeah, you gotta like like swallow a bomb real quick.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, Vale says it's her art.
It's
Yeah.
her art. It's a wow, love it.
Wow.
I- Blasto's an artist too. Let's talk about Blasto.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
What do you have to say
I
about
kind
him?
of I kind of love Blasto. He doesn't have any thoughts or feelings,
Yeah,
which
he's
is
no thoughts, head
interesting.
empty.
He really is no thoughts, head empty the whole time. That's what I was saying when you got distracted by I heard the door slam, was that he like Bonesaw shows up and he's like prepping to like to like deal with the situation by releasing the Morrigan or whatever.
Mm.
But he's not feeling anything. He's just like you don't get keyed into anything that's going on internally for him, which is really interesting. Like I wonder how much of it is that he's like not experiencing like a lot of thoughts and emotions versus he's just not somebody who like shares that.
Hmm.
Um, he loves the ganja. That's fun. I had said like before stream or whatever, William and I were talking about it, and I have been under the assumption that like his like power and or trigger has like some sort of like weed relation just based on his power, like the way that it's like plant-based and he's like I don't know, like he's like growing specific strains of things basically.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Vale says, I like Blasto. I'm quite jealous of his work ethic. I wish I could get lost in work and enjoy it that much.
Yeah, like to the point where you're like, I don't give a shit that the Slaughterhouse Nine are here. I got my C mark to work on.
Yeah, if he had been working a little faster, maybe he would have been
I know,
fine.
I know. If he had like done a better job, if he hadn't messed up like 3 times before it
You
started
know,
going well,
if he had just done one normal two cape hybrid, he would have had a two cape hybrid to fight for him.
yeah, he would have had anything to fight for him.
Yeah.
He had the Igor.
I think if you could have a mix of Mirden and Chevalier, it would
Uh-huh.
actually make a lot of sense because they're both like different dimension manipulators and they could
Hmm.
like combo the power somehow. I don't know how off the
Yeah.
top of my head they would
Well, think about it because we have that section coming
Okay, well,
up.
I'll talk
I'll
about
answer.
that in that part. Yeah. I mean, he said right off the top that he had both of them on hand. He could have
Mm-hmm.
just gone for it. The fool!
Um, Vil said 8 hours passed and I didn't notice while working. That would be amazing. I know, right?
Um,
He's well, yeah. If you had such a passion, but the price of his passion is that he's not allowed to smoke, and he's losing half his territory. Crazy.
crazy.
I didn't mention that, but Accord did. He was like, "And you'll give me half of your territory after you do the job." And he's like, "All right."
I think you don't even need a super ulterior motive at a certain point when you're just like, well, also give me half of your territory. Like, anyway, um, so what was I saying about characters? Blasto's really cool.
Mhm.
I think we all like him. I think he's
Mhm.
one of those characters that you only need to spend one chapter with to just be fully into. Also, his
Yeah.
voice actor on the first, the original audiobook is quite good. I think he's really
Nice.
compelling for this chapter. Like, did you listen to it or?
No, I read it this time.
Mm-mm. Yeah, there's just something very charming about when he's playing Blasto specifically.
Yeah, I find Blasto to be generally charming. He's just got that easy going kind of energy that you're like, you can chill with this guy. He's a little bit, maybe a little bit sociopathic, Well, like, wow, what's the deal with making a baby Seamerg? That's crazy.
That's a thing that even specifically Bonesaw says, I would never
Bonesaw.
do that.
I would never do that, no matter how much fun it might be,
You need to
because
show a little
that's
restraint, she says.
he also has a kill order on him, so he's probably done some pretty crazy things. Like not a lot of people seem to have kill orders on
No,
them.
he it's not that he has a kill order, it's that he doesn't create stuff that creates other stuff because then he would immediately
Oh,
get a kill order on him. So it's
I
like
see.
the paperwork is all written up so that when it happens, they can just sign it right away. And he knows
Hmm.
that. I
Okay, I
think that's
see.
the deal.
So they don't duplicate because of that. Let me see. Yeah. Should creation self-propagate, kill orders are pre-authorized. And then he said no big surprises on the possible kill order. He'd been made aware of it some time ago and had grumbled, groaned, and grudgingly avoided making any life forms that could breed in the years since. He's like, come on, guys.
Come on.
Come on. Like it's not a big deal. Please. Please. Okay. So
I
he's
also
like,
like, okay, so this is something that I know from out of chapter, from like stuff we learn in Ward, but he's just like he's a big scammer where he'll like make one thing and just totally lie about what it is and be like,
oh my
yeah, it's
gosh.
this really impressive thing. Or like, no, I didn't make that with Tinker Tech. No.
No. That's so funny. Greg said, I'm not sure what he thinks would happen if he did successfully create a new Endbringer. It's not about what would happen. Art is about the process, Greg. Even if it can't breed, that kill order would come down so fast. Yeah. Um, Oh my God, a freaking Seamerg. And like for him to choose the Seamerg out of the three of them is so insane.
The wiliest one. But I get
Like
it.
I know
His
I know
reasoning
he
for
gives
not
like
the other two, but there should just be a third reasoning for like, okay, also not the Seamerg. I guess there's no viable
also not the
candidates.
Seamerg.
You know,
I mean,
I just can't think of any of the three of them that would be viable as that it wouldn't destroy your
and it
equipment.
wouldn't cause so many problems. Yeah, why would he do it first thing? Like you're gonna just cause more problems for yourself. Like make a bunch of things first and then like end with a bang. And then, if your equipment gets broken, then whatever.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, if you made the one I said, who would be called Mirrodin on a horse, you see,
Mm-hmm.
Chevalier
Mirrodin
is a
on
rider.
ice is what I.
Mirrodin on ice. No, he's Mirrodin on a horse. That's when you give Chevalier the power of Mirrodin.
Yeah.
Sorry, Wizard on a horse. That's his cape name.
Wizard on horse.
Um, if you'd just done that, I mean, you'd have a pretty cool, like, that's practically a band name right there. So like,
Mm-hmm.
Blaster should be focused on that.
Mm-hmm. But let's see. Vale said, "Oh God, Chibiathan, the sippy cup
I like
endbringer would be
Chibiathan.
cool. Chibiathan, Shibiathan, something like that. Sippy cup endbringer. I'm trying to think of who do I know? Do I know it? Oh, we're just talking about little baby endbringer. I see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think, yeah, I do think a Leviathan or like a behemoth could be kind of cute.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, the thing about
Um,
them is they're like,
they're not human looking.
yeah, they're like if they were tiny, they would be like cute. The monsters from that Small Soldiers movie or whatever, where it's like
Mm.
toy aliens and monsters versus toy soldiers who are actually the bad guys. Um, combine Leviathan DNA with Smole. Yeah, yeah, yeah. With
Small.
being Smole.
That's funny. He should have done the classic move of picking the two hottest capes and then
Hmm.
comboing them. He could probably do more than two. He shouldn't limit himself.
So, like, who are the two hottest? I mean, I think
Um,
Alexandra is probably really hot, but
yeah, I think like a Miss Militia or Alexandria. You could do like a Miss Militia Narwhal.
oh man, Narwhal, she's just flaunting everything.
Yeah, I don't know how hot Narwhal actually is, or if she's just like constantly wearing shield shapewear, um, you know,
Hmm. Hmm.
putting curves in all the right places. Bill said Oliver and Fun Dancer. Are those the two hot? Oh, I guess Oliver is hot later. Okay, sorry. I was imagining original Oliver.
This is hilarious. That's my fanfic is Oliver and Sundancer become a couple after the events of Worm.
Oliver and Sundancer is a good band name too. Like a
Hmm.
good duo name. Oliver and the Sundancers or something like that.
Oliver and the Sundance Kid.
Yeah, Oliver and the Sundance Kid. Um, oh my gosh. Do we want to let's see. What else does to say about Blasto? Like I said, it's hard because he does not convey how he feels or thinks about
We're just
things.
projecting on him that he's cool.
We just like him. We just like him because he didn't do anything problematic, except for try to make a C merc this chapter.
And we
But
think that's
also
cool, probably.
and also he wasn't one of like the few like very like selfish capes that would have been like, "You're right. I will join you, Bonesaw."
Yeah, yeah,
Like you
yeah.
have to be like so selfish and evil to do that. I feel like Coil would do that.
Coil would totally do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, a Cord would not, but because he would be like, ugh, put your organs back inside your legs, girl.
Okay, but I can't blame him for that one. Are you kidding?
Yeah, but he's just like basically like disgust beyond like even if it was some minor situation, he'd be like, ugh, I can't work with you. Like
Ugh, Defiant should die too because he's not slicing them in half symmetrically.
yes, yes. He's too much of a chaotic element. This is my new
Get
Accord
out of my
voice.
basement.
Yeah.
It's a good Accord voice.
Anyway, so oh yeah, we missed it before, but I wanted to call out the silly shape of Genesis.
For
Uh,
sure.
uh She wore a vaguely female shape with a serpent's tail from the waist down and a bony forehead that flared and swooped back behind her head like a triceratops's frill. She had no eyes and her mouth was wide and lipless, with tiny, sharp teeth. Her arms long with clawed fingertips. You know, just
Gross.
a classic Genesis form. Which part to you of this is gross? Not to say that you're wrong, just I wanna
I was imagining the lipless mouth with tiny sharp teeth.
Oh, I see, yeah.
I'm curious if she has a nose because she doesn't have eyes, but she doesn't describe a nose. I think that the form is better if she has like if she looks like she's got like a skinned over face, you know what I
That's
mean?
kind of what
Like,
I was gonna say is like it makes me think of like sci-fi movie monsters where they have like a medium makeup budget so they can like kind of put those gross eyes where it's like a like skinned over eyes, you know.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably the look she's going for.
And you know, she's probably going,
But imagine the same look with like some like beautiful luscious lips. Like it would be a
"Yeah,
totally
look at
different
my
effect.
luscious lip."
It's very this kind of comes off like a very I don't know if it's like a classic vampire that looks like this, probably not, but you know, like a
Like an
very specific
Orlok.
version.
Yeah.
Yeah, a very like monstrosized vampire kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally know what you mean. You know,
Um,
what's stupid about the term Nosferatu is that it's just a copyright thing where they weren't able to say Dracula
Dracula.
or like I don't know if they could say vampire, but yeah, Nosferatu is just like a huh. Well, I need to call this something else. So he's not actually Edward Cullen, he's Christian Grey.
Uh-huh.
My original character, Do Not Steal.
My OC.
Yeah. Do you got any more things to say?
We'll just remind because it is very, very important
Oh,
for the world building that the access to Slaughterhouse 9 DNA that
oh yes.
Ms. Bonesaw now has. So I guess just keep it in mind. She called out a few names. Maybe we should go over them. Let's see. Let's see.
Also, this means that the Slaughterhouse 9 getting all the clone data, that's Taylor's fault too. It's all
Yeah.
Taylor's fault.
That's what I was gonna say earlier when we were talking about how it was all Taylor's fault, and I was like, oh, so part of this is because Taylor went along with some bullshit. Okay, Burn Scar, Shatterbird, Winter, Chuckles, Nice Guy, Murder Rat, Hatchet Face, know that one.
We know Murder
Screamer,
Rat too.
yeah. Oh yeah. Murder Rat was the other mixology guy. Um Harbinger, is it Harbinger or Harbinger?
I think it's a
Harbinger.
soft G. I think it's Harbinger. I've heard a lot
Harbinger.
of people say Harbinger, and it always sounds wrong on my ears.
It sounds like something from I try so hard not to talk about Homestuck all the time.
We do our best,
We do our best
and yet
here.
we fail.
Harbinger, King, and Gray Boy. So it's like I
What?
don't know, it's like some fun preparation for like
You know, I
like,
think
I hope none of this comes back.
the fact that Bonesaw's like, even I'm not stupid enough to make an Endbringer, and then she goddamn makes a fucking Grey Boy clone? Like, are you
Yeah,
kidding
but
me?
Jack would be so happy. Oh yeah, because that's what she says. She says, "Ooh, Gray Boy, he was one of Jack's first teammates. You wouldn't believe the stories Jack tells about him." So it's like anything to make Jack happy. Maybe she
Yeah.
thought he wouldn't be as he wouldn't be as excited about the Seamerk baby.
Yeah. Endbringers, that's boring. Grey Boy's more
Boring.
fun.
I like my old best friend, Gray Boy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's mostly it. Just a lot of name dropping that probably definitely won't come up any at all later.
Yeah, no
Super.
one knows these characters. That they just get mentioned and forgotten.
Yeah, it's just like to flesh out the size of the world and everything.
I really I do think that it's a good mix of ones we've heard of and ones we haven't heard of.
Yeah, yeah. It like gets you like you're like, "Oh yeah. Oh God."
Actually,
And then you're
now that
like,
I think about it, Winter and Chuckles were both mentioned before. They were in the files. Maybe all of these people have been mentioned previously. Maybe not
"Hmm.
Harbinger.
I don't think Harbinger has been by name."
Hmm.
Um,
I think the new
I,
ones are Screamer, Harbinger, and King.
yeah.
Because Grey Boy we've heard of in the past as like a this really bad thing happened or whatever. I
Yeah, they're
think.
like, "Oh, like Gray Boy or whatever."
Yeah. Um. At least I think it's been seeded in the past. I don't know. It gets a little hazy sometimes because there's so much like planting and payoff in different parts of the book.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um. Is there other stuff you want to talk about?
I think that's everything. You want to do audience participation?
Yes. So the question was, which two parahumans would you combine if you were Blasto in this chapter? And as you see, I thought of a question for next week during the cast. So that's always
That's
good.
amazing. Phil will be very happy.
Yeah. So first, 2 plus 4 times 5 had answered Narwhal and Bastion, ultimate force field generator. Going ham. Generating those
Mm.
force fields, wearing sexy shapewear. You know what? Maybe it's slightly shapewear, but I think she's probably pretty confident about like you can look at my body through these translucent force fields. So I will point that out. Anyway, so that's a funny answer. And makes sense. Vale says Mend Lash. Panacea hugs Garrot. The resulting healing, while garroted, results in a single entity with two distinct powers. First is the terrible, uncontrollable Case 53 assassin tentacles, but now infused with the power of healing, or at worst,
Whoa.
body restructuring in less splattery ways. I gotta say, I if it's still an uncontrolled power, uncontrolled Amy power attached to long
Oh
range tentacles
God.
actually seems just worse. It's like, oh no, oh
I think it's
no,
supposed
not
to be
like
worse. It's like
this.
it's like a horrible version. But if you have the pheromones on, you're good.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So that was your answer?
No, I was just joking. I didn't make up an answer. I was just saying that so that I didn't have to, then I could just be like, yeah, me too.
Well, I'm gonna tell you about my fake cape and come up with a name,
Okay.
but you
Okay.
you be thinking about one
I'm
in your mind's
thinking.
eye. So yeah, I'm just going with what I said. Easy thing that he could have created to fight for him. It's Chevalier and Mirrodin. This new double cape wizard on a horse. He would sort of he would both be able to open up interdimensional stuff like Mirrodin to blast people, and he would sort of like he wouldn't like do the gear thing. It'd be like how sometimes the clones' powers are slightly different. So he wouldn't alter gear. He himself would just like sort of shift through multiple reality states at once. So then he would only be in the like beneficial ones. You know what I mean? So he'd be like
Hmm.
scooting around the battlefield, like defensively phasing around, and then like shooting reality blasts, Mirrodin style. So is pretty powerful. I bet it could have taken on Bone Sea for at least a few moments.
Yeah. You think a 6-year-old version?
Yeah.
Well, do you know if they like, because they have the Corona Palencia or whatever, like, do you think that it would even have powers until later? Like, would it need to have a trigger?
Well, it seems like different types of clones and things have different trigger event processes. I don't know how
Yeah.
his clones work per se, but like the Noel thing has like built in like ways to
Yeah,
cause
those ones
trigger
have like
events.
built-in ones, yeah.
So it would kind of depend on what happens with his like seed pods.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't actually know. I'm just pretending he would get the powers and that he would be
And just get the power. It's
he's
fine.
strong enough to fight off a terrible little girl.
The worst little girl like in ever.
Yeah, she's pretty bad.
This chapter was pretty bad. Like Jack isn't even around. She's just being the worst.
Yeah, yeah. Man, Jack.
Let's do a. I feel like you could do something cool with a maybe a Jack and a either like a Flechette or a Jack and oh my gosh, what's her name? Faultline. Like I feel like you could do like basically just like long extended crazy
I
range and stuff.
I thought of something. It's
Hmm.
Jack plus clock blocker, and he has creepy little thingies that stretch out and they touch you to freeze you.
Oh no.
His creepy
Oh
little
no.
thingies.
Oh
If he
no.
has line of sight on you, his little fingies are gonna touch you.
It's not fingies, it's just fingernails.
Oh no!
I think. I think it's the fingernails.
And it makes like a little.
Isn't this already Nailbiter's power? I think oh man, Nailbiter and Clock Blocker could do wonders.
Yeah. Nailbiter's power makes her more dense as she stretches, though, and I think that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
As far as superpowers go, like I want to be a dense, stretched out, thin thing that swats at people from really far. Plus, she can run really fast because of how tall she gets. Oh, it's awesome. Man, some of these powers, I'm just like, yeah, I want to be in super fights. It's worth probably dying in a super fight to be able to swat people with nail biter arms.
It's totally worth it. Even having scary long fingies and long teeth. That's the thing. The
Yeah,
fucking teeth. She's like always stabbing people with her fucking with her stretched out teeth.
yeah, yeah.
Horrifying.
Oh man, I wouldn't want to have the teeth she has though.
No, they're horrible.
Yeah.
I feel like a bone saw baby would be good with someone. Let me think who bone saw could be good with.
Hmm.
Oh, a bone saw and Taylor, like a bone saw and a master power. It
Yeah,
would basically just be like a Nilbog or a.
yeah, that's true.
Hmm.
I think maybe if you attached Bonesaw to having like a thinker power, so she had her normal tinker power, but also
Mhm.
big parahuman brain.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm not sure what would be best. Uh,
She could be like her tinker power and then oh my gosh, sorry, I'm so bad with names. Dinah. So she could like
oh,
think about a bunch of different scenarios and like figure out like what alterations would like leave them with the best odds and that kind of stuff and not necessarily know how those alterations like get them out of something, just that she should do them.
mhm. You know, Vale says Bonesaw with Miss Militia for range surgery, but I'm thinking
You're like shooting people with
instead of range surgery, it's that you can turn the little green energy ball into any surgical tool that you need. You don't need to be
Oh.
asking for tools.
I thought it would like turn the little green energy ball into like a fetus or a body, and then you can like butcher it up however you want.
I guess.
Gross.
Oh my god. Oh my god, that's so gross.
Enough of that.
Well, I don't have any more off the top of my head. I think there's plenty of good ones.
Plenty.
I really think that creepy little like time stop Jack with his little thingies. That's my favorite one because I think it's more creepy than the nails.
It's pretty creepy.
So the next question is for the next two chapters, 19.4 and 19.5, and it's, if you could make a portal in your city to a fictional world, what would it be? And this is like, you know,
shifting time.
Now I go to Lord of the Rings world, or now I go to Star Trek. But, you know, you kind of interpret the question in a way that generates
Think
a
about
fun
the
answer.
Consequences that it might have on your city is what I would be worried about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, what if you opened the portal to Goron City, but then you realize that it's full of lava, and then lava destroys your city.
And then lava gets in everywhere, yeah. Or you open up the portal to Minecraft, but it's full of lava, and then lava destroys your city.
And Vale said Mordor because one simply can't simply walk there. But the problem is that Mordor, as depicted in the films, also appeared to have a lot of lava.
Full of lava. Think about it. You got to be careful with that kind of stuff, okay?
You mostly have to avoid
can't just open up
quicksand
to lava
and lava. Anyway, I don't really have any more stuff to say, but I was gonna start the outro music.
Go for it.
All right. All right. So the music used this time was Queen Scourge by our friend Scarlett, and twitch.tv/Scarlett_Rogue. Our Discord can be found in the stream description and in the channel description. We have the author, of course, is Wildbow, who can be supported on Patreon at patreon.com/Wildbow. The full text of the work is available for free online at parahumans.wordpress.com. There is also a fan-made audiobook of the entire work at audioworm.rain-online.org. Vale said, thank you all, or take care all. Thanks as always. And Greg said, cheers. Any final words to the people while the very short song plays out?
Blasto, I hardly know. Oh.
Man, that's like when you used to do the outro jokes on the M stream, and it was always your mom or whatever. Oh boy.
It's all I got. That's all you're left with when puns don't work for you.
That's true. Oh man. It must feel so limiting in your life.
That's probably why I resent them so much.
We're so close to the end.